Did you know the US military once planned to protect America using battle tactics from Star Wars? No, not lightsabers or stormtroopers, but real-life lasers and satellites. Yep, this wild idea was actually proposed by President Ronald Reagan in the 1980s, and it was called the Strategic Defense Initiative, but everyone just called it Star Wars. So, what was it all about? Let's dive into it. So picture this. It's the 1980s. The Cold War is still raging, and both the US and the Soviet Union are stockpiling nuclear weapons. The fear of a full-scale nuclear war is very real. For decades, both sides relied on something called mutually assured destruction. Basically, the idea that if one country launched their nukes, the other would retaliate, and everyone would lose. This stalemate kept things relatively in check. But in 1983, President Reagan took to the airwaves and proposed something revolutionary. Why not build a defense system to protect the US from nuclear missiles instead of just threatening to fire back? Enter the Strategic Defense Initiative, or SDI, a plan that sounded like it was straight out of a science fiction movie. The idea was bold, and some would say totally crazy at the time. SDI proposed using advanced technology to detect, intercept, and destroy nuclear missiles in space before they could hit their targets. In other words, shoot down incoming nukes before they could do any damage. That's where the nickname Star Wars came from, because a lot of the tech sounded like something you'd see in a George Lucas movie. Now let's break down how SDI was supposed to work. The program had a few major components. First, space-based lasers. These would use directed energy beams to destroy enemy missiles during the boost phase. That's right after they launch and are still climbing into space. Second, kinetic kill vehicles. Imagine high-speed projectiles that would be fired from satellites or ground-based interceptors. They would collide with enemy warheads and destroy them using the energy from the impact. No explosives needed, just speed and precision. And finally, space-based sensors and satellites. These would detect missile launches and track their path, allowing for real-time interception. Sounds like a pretty cool idea, right? But there were some massive challenges. First off, the technology just wasn't there yet. In the 1980s, lasers powerful enough to destroy missiles were still science fiction. Even today, it's incredibly difficult to build something that can shoot down a missile at hypersonic speeds, let alone do it from space. Then there was the cost. SDI was projected to cost hundreds of billions of dollars, if not more. Developing and deploying these space-based systems would have required a massive investment, and the price tag quickly became a concern for Congress and the American public. And speaking of public opinion, not everyone was on board with the idea. Critics said SDI would militarize space and could actually escalate the arms race instead of preventing it. If the US could protect itself from nuclear missiles, what was stopping the Soviets from developing even more advanced weapons to get around the defense system? By the late 1980s, the Cold War started winding down. Relations between the United States and the Soviet Union improved, and the threat of a nuclear showdown started to fade. Without the immediate threat of nuclear war, SDI lost momentum. Although it was never fully realized, the program wasn't a complete failure. Many of the technologies explored during SDI laid the foundation for today's missile defense systems. For example, the United States now has something called the Ground-Based Midcourse Defense System, which is designed to intercept incoming ballistic missiles. While it's not as ambitious as Reagan's original vision, it owes a lot to the research and development done under SDI. Another interesting legacy of SDI is its influence on space technology. While we're not zapping missiles with lasers just yet, the push for space-based systems and advanced sensors opened the door for the space exploration and defense technology we see today. Even concepts like GPS and satellite communications benefited from the innovations that came out of SDI research. So, in the end, did the United States military adopt battle tactics from Star Wars? Well, sort of. The Strategic Defense Initiative might not have built the kind of laser shields we saw in the movies, but it was an important step in rethinking how to defend against nuclear threats. It sparked research that has influenced missile defense and space tech for decades. What do you think? Was the Star Wars defense plan a bold move that was ahead of its time, or a costly idea that never quite took off? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss more cool history and science content. Thanks for watching.